Welcome to another round of Salty Takeaways and Bitter Ends as we go over the first time in 13 matches at Mercedes-Benz that Atlanta United did not come away with points. It was a 2-1 loss to Columbus Crew. We will dissect, analyze, and otherwise take a peek at it here, and we will go over your tweets as well. And once again, thanks to everybody who engages with us in conversation after all these matches so we can talk about it here on SDH. Jarrett there, Jon here from 30,000 feet. What are your takeaways from the loss to Columbus?
I said last week this is a match you had to win, and you didn't win it. You needed to win. You didn't. And you had individual mistakes where you switched off at the start of the game. Everybody else has talked about it. We can get into it a little bit. I don't want to spoil the entire week's STH, but Joe Dickerson was really bad in the center, but he didn't cost 2 goals. You refused to switch on to start the game, cost yourself a goal there, and then you're chasing it. Columbus doesn't really have any interest in playing other than hitting the occasional long ball. They win a long ball against your third string center back, loses a 1v1 against Hurtado, who muscles him for position on the ball, then gets inside and finishes. And Bobby Shuttleworth tell you he should have done better, probably should have done better with it. All of a sudden, you're down 2-0. You've been creating. Eloy Room he entered the Avatar state for a bit.
No kidding.
But, I mean, you needed to win, and you didn't. That's the bottom line. The season's not over, and I'm really not in the mood to hear people telling me the season's over. It's because it's a play. If no other reason, I get it. We're at the third pole, just past the third of the season, but it's a playoff format. You can sneak in the back door in the last spot of the playoff like RSL did last year and do some damage. It's not over by any stretch of the imagination just because you've got a window to try and fix this. And then you've got hopefully Joseph coming back and being a functioning human being. You may have found something legitimate in Dom Dwyer. Beyond the jokes, beyond the memes, beyond him scoring against Kansas City to open the year, and everyone had fun with it and laughed at it. He got his red card 2 minutes after he came into that one game. Dom Dwyer rescued your draw in Nashville last week, which, he just finished off what was a brilliant pass by Amada. And then a great decision by Brooks Lennon to make the extra pass. But he follows up that he gets on his bike, gets you a goal here. He has done everything you've asked of him. Dude played left wing back yesterday for a while, and it's not his game. It's not what he does. I've been infinitely impressed with him, and you want to have a conversation. Let's talk about folks coming out of Orlando, because between him and Miram, that's 2 guys who languished in Orlando. Dom did produce for a bit in his first year or two, but languished in Orlando after that. Guys getting out of Orlando and kind of finding themselves again and embracing the city and doing everything right. You may have found something very legitimate in Dom Dwyer and a backup striker and a guy who can bring that energy and bring some fight to it. People talk about wanting garra in the game. First of all, this team's always had garra. They've got fight. Just because they're not out there 2-footing somebody.
80th minute and beyond.
Yeah, just because you're not 2-footing somebody doesn't mean you don't have garra. And also Dom did that, or he got his red card. You have fight on this team, but the bottom line is, and it's great to have all that. You needed to win yesterday, and you didn't. And like I said, the season isn't over. I don't want to hear it. I really don't. Look, salty takeaway is us being pretty honest about this stuff, and you'll get stuff during the week, and that is what it is. This is generally mine and John's, and sometimes Nick's chance to just kind of, before the wound has scabbed over, before the platelets have congealed over the wound, stop the bleeding, where we can get a little salty about it all, and
super glue and go for cancer.
Yeah, this is some we held the skin together so it would stop bleeding and put Gorilla Glue over it and held it there and see how long it took for it to just hold. But no, I don't want to hear about the season being over, man. I get it. You're missing your goalkeeper. You're missing center backs left and right. You lost another left back.
5 center backs, yeah.
Yeah, and you've lost 2 left backs now. I get it, man. But no, I said this I think a week or two ago. Um, I said this when actually in the Chicago game when Miles went down. Chicago don't give a shit.
Mm-mm.
Nobody gives a shit that you got guys hurt. Their goal is to go in there and take points off you. No one cares that you're hurt. No one cares that you're rotating guys, whether that's Rocco or Bobby Shuttleworth and net. They don't care. So make something happen. You'd have to find a way.
6s and 7s pretty much across the board, courtesy of our friends at SofaScore. Luis Araujo, by the way, an 8.2 on the day in his 90 minutes, 81 touches, 77% passing at a 30 for 39, 2 for 3 on his long balls, had 2 crosses, 8 of 10 successful dribbles, 1 shot on target, 2 off target, so 3 on the day overall, had 1 blocked. 11 of 17 for Luis Araujo on his ground duels. And you had 1 foul. He's fouled once as well, 2 tackles and a dribble as well. So Luis Araujo with an 8.2, the highest mark for anyone on the board for Atlanta United. But you mentioned Dom Dwyer. Dom with the the goal and the subsequent yellow punches a 7. We also got to see Joseph Martinez, who came in for the second half. So Joseph was one of the changes that was made by Gonzalo Pineda heading into the second half. The other change was Mikey Ambrose, who came in basically on emergency duty after Ronald Hernandez was removed in the 6th minute after colliding with Bobby Shuttleworth. Mikey gives you 40 minutes, gets out there, and then George Campbell takes over for the second half at the back. So we saw Joseph, and we saw him probably for far more minutes than we anticipated there in the second half.
We did. And people are gonna, people are excited about Joseph's comments. He felt he didn't play well. He wants to keep improving and wants to start next. Like, man, Joseph's just wired. Joseph's a different cat. He's wired that way. Joseph's gonna hold himself to a very high standard. He's gonna be tougher on himself than probably most of us are gonna be on him. Even fans who want to get mad at him, like the fans back in the day. You go back to 2019, I think it was, or 2018, where the fans tried to confront him in the tunnel and he had to be all the way. Don't be that jackass, first of all. And second of all, he's going to hold himself to a high standard. You got 45 minutes out of him. I don't know how much they expected to get out of him, but, he's going to hold himself to the standard of, I think he said he played like shit. And he's coming back from a knee injury. He's trying to get back into the flow of it. I don't think I didn't expect him to get 45 minutes. I thought he'd get 20. We did I did a voice channel on the Discord after the Twos game the other night. And Turner and Will and I were talking about it, and they asked about, with Jackson Conway playing with the Twos, like what's Joseph's situation? I said, if he gives you 20 minutes, that's great. Like, I didn't even expect that, to be honest, because I don't want to rush Joseph back. I don't want him to, and I know he wants to play. I didn't want to rush him back though, and end up in a situation where he aggravates something because he comes back a little bit too early, and it's hard to tell an athlete that, like, they want to play. But, I was nervous about making sure that he's going to be 100%. But he gave you what he gave you, did well. George Campbell did well coming back in. I don't know how people are going to feel about George Campbell coming back in, because when George Campbell was in there making mistakes that a 20-year-old makes, people got really mad at him. How do you want to play this? Because I'm sorry, you don't have Miles Robinson. Leandro Gonzalez Perez is in Argentina. Michael Parkhurst is retired.
He's on our show every other week. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you're going to have to figure it out at some point, and you're going to have to play kids, and you're going to have to play guys down the depth chart, and that sucks. But yeah, as far as Joseph goes, for 45 minutes, like, he's going to tell you you should have done better. But I thought he was, fine. He looked pretty healthy. There's a couple times I think he pulled out of what would have been kind of reckless, like, duels. But I think he's just trusting his body and getting back into it.
All of the numbers leaning Atlanta United's way when it comes to the stats. Possession 70-30, of course, when you get a 2-goal advantage and Columbus just decides that they're going to put 17 players behind the ball and park the bus. That's what they're entitled to do. So naturally the numbers lend itself to 60.
Oh, yeah, they were always going to do that.
Yeah, 69-31. Total shots 22-9 for Atlanta United, 9 on target, only 3 for Columbus. Once again, 2 of those in the back of the net. And that meant that 7 were off target, 6 blocks on the day, 9-7 advantage for corners. 18-7 in fouls called against Atlanta United. We'll get into that in just a little bit. 4 yellows in the Almada red. We'll get into the Almada red in just a little bit. 2 chances missed as well for Atlanta United. The passing numbers, once again, no real surprise when you've got all of the ball. 459 passes completed for 86% on the day. Columbus 166 of 236 at 70%. Long balls 25-22. Crosses 11-6 for Atlanta United. Dribbles once again 16 out of 26 won by Atlanta United. Only 7 of 17 for Columbus. Duels 55-45-ish. We'll just go ahead and call it that way. Percentage-wise was 66 of 127. Tackles, picks, and clearances all leaning in the way of Columbus on the day. Now, let's get into Joseph Dickerson a little bit, and the lack of control he exuded in the match, specifically, let's just say 46th minute and beyond, because when it came to Dickerson's management of the match, he pretty much let Columbus do what they wanted. And as Columbus is entitled, you're going to do what the center ref gives you. And if he gives you a finger wag and an encouragement, if you're Eloy Room, yet he doesn't card Eloy Room for time wasting, doesn't card any of the other Columbus players for time wasting, specifically once the stretcher comes out and then the player stands up right as the stretcher comes out and it's like, nah, I'll walk it off, I'm cool. The management of the match seemed to get away from Joseph Dickerson, and there was a moment that kind of crystallized it for me was once the goal was scored by Dom Dwyer, you saw Dwyer in the net trying to get the ball away from the Columbus player so Atlanta United could restart, and the third guy in that 4-person fray was Joseph Dickerson. It was just, you get to moments where, frankly, you just shake your head at the lack of control that Joseph Dickerson wanted to assert in this match as center official.
It's not surprising. I mean, you go back and look at the game in Austin with Orlando last week. Orlando goes down 2 players and they start dragging their feet because they're up 2-1. Austin eventually gets the equalizer in like the 90th minute or something like that, and they play like 9 to 10 minutes of stoppage time. But Orlando was dragging that game out as much as possible, and Joseph Dickerson did nothing to speed it up. He admonished Pedro Gallese a few times, but I think he carded him in like the 98th minute. And what happened was Gillespie literally stood over the ball and refused to kick it. He just stood there with it, did not move. And Dickerson yelled at him a couple times and finally carded him. And that's when he did it. He literally forced him to card him. But Columbus was time wasting from like the 5th minute on.
Yes.
Which is what they were going to do. It's why Gonzalo Pineda was so justifiably pissed off at his team, because you came out of the gate switched off.
Mm-hmm.
It's unacceptable. You cannot come out of the gate switched off and then give up a goal in the first damn minute to a team that's not going to have any interest in playing you. It's the same damn thing. Not the same damn thing. It's a similar thing to what you did in Columbus a couple of years ago when you had to play in that torrential mess of a game that was an embarrassment that they were allowed to play in, where you said before the game, you got to not give up an early goal, because it's going to be trash conditions that get worse and worse. You gave up an early goal and trash conditions got worse and worse. You knew what the game plan was. You knew how they were going to come in here and play, and you showed up and slept walk for the first few minutes, put yourself in a hole, and set the stage for the rest of the game. It's why Gonzalo Pineda was so pissed. Justifiably so. It was unacceptable from his team. That's not why. Joe Dickerson is not why you lost that game. Joe Dickerson impacts the flow of the game. Thought the line for what was a foul play jump rope in the second half.
Yes.
That was infuriating, and guys were getting really upset, and it breaks up the flow of the game. But I mean, he gives 9 minutes of stoppage time in the first half, which makes sense because you had multiple injuries.
Santos and Ronald.
Yeah. I mean, it's just such a weird. It's a weird game, and Joseph Dickerson, for my mind, he doesn't need to be in the center for a while. Like, he can't control a game like that. And if you're going to give him a game, you better pray to God it doesn't end up with a game where somebody's trying to just kind of run out the clock. And honestly, look, if Atlanta gets him again and you get a 1-goal lead, tell Bobby Shuttleworth to sit on the ball, sit on it like a damn egg.
Yep.
Tell everybody to go down and lay down, because Dickerson's not going to do anything. Everyone watched that. You know Eloy Room watched what happened last week. That was discussed of, hey, man, Pedro Gillespie was literally able to do whatever he wanted in time waste, and there was no punishment. Eloy Room knew that. When he got that 1-0 lead, that man started dragging his feet in the 6th minute because the game allows for it, because the ref allows for it. He's not moving things on. I'm not saying you have to card the goalkeeper in the 10th minute, but if it's the 35th minute and you've warned him 4 times,
Card him.
card him.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, you have warned him over and over and over again. At that point, you're just being a shitty parent who has decided to keep gently, telling your kid, okay, we need to do this or else, need to do this or else. And it's empty, veiled nonsense, man. I mean, it was very frustrating, and it boils into the whole thing after the game, which we can get into, man. I mean, it's the worst decision you get out of all that is Thiago Almada bumping into Joe Dickerson, and Almada has to be smarter.
He does.
You can't bump the ref. I know you're mad. You can't bump him. For what it's worth, I think Joe Dickerson is completely clueless about everything, because in that situation, you know that you have an entire team pissed off at you. You just sent off their manager who threw his jacket on the ground and has probably been jawing off to you and the 4th official all game long. You know everyone on that bench has some really choice words for you. Mm-hmm. Everyone is mad at you. You blew it dead. Get off the field.
Yeah.
Start jogging into the tunnel. Because what's going to end up happening is what happened. Is you get a young player who loses his cool, who's going to come up and talk to you. And instead of walking away, Joseph Dickerson just walks in his direction. They end up bumping, and Joseph Dickerson gives him a red that's going to roll over to the next game. Joseph Dickerson was well within his right to give him a red, too. That's not a bad red. There's nothing wrong with that card. I have a huge issue with Almada not being able to control himself. And somebody's also got to see it and just get him out of there, man. If Dickerson's going to be out there, then that also, it's not just him that needs to get out of there. If Almada's going to run that hot, somebody's got to see it and drag his ass off the field and get him out of there. And either assistant coach is talking to him afterward, and they were kind of admonishing him, I thought, but the vibe I got from the admonishment was more of a, man, what did you expect?
Dude, you can't.
You bumped into him. Yeah. Of course he's going to card you. I know you're mad. We're all mad. But you can't bump into him, because the last thing a struggling team needs is to lose their number 10, who has been lighting it up and creating left and right for you. Now you have forced a thin team into a situation next week where I'm guessing it's going to be Marcelino Moreno in the field with you in the middle in that position. And I don't know, maybe Tyler Wolff out left, and see if he can continue to play like an aggressive pressing style that can, create some havoc. But I mean, you have till the international break, so maybe you can all clear your head. But yeah, I 100% Almada has to be better. It's a deserved red card. I think it's Jose Martinez to get one as well from Philadelphia, because he chest bumped the ref.
That was the other point that I was going to bring up, was
he should get one after the fact. And if he doesn't, that doesn't mean Almada should have his rescinded, in my opinion. That means the pro screwed up in not suspending Martinez for a game as well.
And yeah, so keep an eye on that, and keep an eye on the Friday news dump that is notorious from Pro about who gets fines, who doesn't, the video segment that is released. Keep an eye on that, and keep an eye on the Martinez situation from the match involving Philadelphia. So keep that to me is an indicator here of where the line continues to shift and the lack of uniformity when it comes to what we're seeing these days with Pro, because, hey, Pro apparently didn't think that Alex Muil's belly flop, it wasn't quite an ST plunge because that would have to go backward, but the belly flop from Alex Muil from the 2-2 game with Atlanta and Nashville, that wasn't worthy of any kind of a fine or anything. But
and I'm wondering if Marcelino gets one for his embellishment.
Yeah.
Which his yellow card was deserved. Like that, it was a dive, and he's expecting the contact there, and he goes down. And it's absolutely a yellow card simulation. So that Joseph Dickerson made a couple really good calls in this game. That is one of them. Late in the game, there's a header that comes off of, I believe it comes off towards Campbell, that is initially called as a corner for Atlanta, and Dickerson overrules as AR. It was a great call because it was super close, and I was really impressed. He saw it, and he had the confidence to override his AR in that moment. But man, like overall, when you don't control the game, when you're not keeping a good track of time, When you're
And it's
letting
not
a team,
the first time that you haven't had good track of the game.
no, and you have not been able to control the game. Your foul calls have been up and down. No one knows what's what. You've moved the line like it's on a freaking earthquake. Yeah, guys are going to be hot after the game, and it sets the stage for stupidity after the game, like a young player losing his cool when he shouldn't have, and people not keeping an eye on that young player like they should have. And then you end up with the player suspended. And if Joseph Dickerson is in the center the next MLS week, I will be sorely disappointed in Pro. He needs to not be in the center after the last two games because he has shown me he cannot control the game and control the pace of the game and is letting things boil over. And that's, frankly, it's not safe. I was very happy that no one committed a red card foul in the flow of the game because everyone was getting upset and I was nervous that it was going to boil over and somebody was going to do something stupid. They waited until after the whistle to do something stupid, obviously.
Yes, yeah, and Dickerson, stepping toward Almada with an index finger raised, and then you see the Almada bump. No, it does not excuse what Thiago Almada did, but Joseph Dickerson.
I just want to make that clear. Like, I'm not saying Almada's in the right or anything. Like, Almada's 100% in the wrong. He's got to be smarter than that. I want to make that real clear.
But the engagement, once again, of Joseph Dickerson in a heated environment doesn't help the situation when it comes to looking at what Joseph Dickerson is doing as a center ref. Next time out, just for the record, for Atlanta United, is the 19th at home at 3:00 on Sunday afternoon as Inter Miami comes to town. There are matches that are in the in-between week, that previous week, the June. So we try to hit the back arrow here. There's Saturday, June 11th, Sunday, June 12th. There are a handful of games, and this is where, once again, Major League Soccer gives teams the option of playing during international breaks or not. You've got 3 matches the weekend of the 11th and the 12th, but the next match for Atlanta United is on the 19th as Inter Miami comes to town. You want to go into the Twitters and see what folks had to say after the match? Tom Russo.
Yeah, we do it a little bit, and then we'll cut it loose.
Yeah. Tom Russo, the Airborne DJ, thinks it's time to start questioning Pineda. I could not disagree more. I legitimately, Tom, could not disagree more with you. Considering what has been going on with this roster, with the injuries, and Jarrett, you mentioned it with the team with Garra, which, anybody who says that they're not engaging with that in these matches, once again, is 180 degrees from what is actually going on. But Tom, I cannot disagree with you more, considering what we've been seeing with all of these injuries. And yes, I know, and we'll get into it, that going into this match, it was 1 win in the last 8, but at the same time, you haven't been losing matches. You've been getting points, grinding out points and things like that. Tom, I could not disagree with you more about time to start questioning Gonzalo Pineda, considering what he did last year with a team that wasn't his, working this season into a team that he would like to be his, but with the injuries, Joseph, Aruju, Ozzy, Brad, now Hernandez, Caleb Wiley, and you could continue to go down the roster, for them to continue to get results and to continue to show fight, as we talked about, 8 goals in the 80th minute or beyond this year. I could not disagree with you more. He and his staff have been doing great work with the resources that have been provided for them on a match-by-match basis, but that's just me. I mean, Tom, we can have a conversation about it, but that's just me off the top of my head. What do you think?
I'd be interested in how everybody sees it in the sense of, like, elaborate on it. Like, I mean, what are you questioning?
Yeah.
Because, let's talk about it. I mean, I think the obvious one for a lot of it is, like, the set pieces, and that's, unfortunately, the coach can only do so much on that because that comes down to the players not executing.
Yeah.
And that comes down to an infuriating lack of focus and execution from the players in not executing what they're being told to do. Now, if they disagree with it, that's a different matter. But no, I mean, I'm interested where, like, because I've seen this a couple times when people talk about it, and I'm kind of like, okay, elaborate, like, voice your, elaborate on the displeasures, I guess, with it, because I mean, I believe in what Pineda's trying to do,
mm-hmm.
but I'm fine if people want to elaborate on it. We can absolutely debate it for sure, man. Because I mean, yeah, the results haven't been there. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
You're generating a line attack, and your defense, which has been decimated, is not doing the job. And it's getting punished at a hell of a high clip too. That's the part that sucks. Is you're not getting away with anything. Like there are times where things are going well, and you're like, wow, we got away with some stuff. Like Columbus don't feel that way because Eloy Room played out of his damn mind. And if this goes back to Bobby Shuttleworth versus Rocco Rios Novo, look, Pachuca game might be one you want to circle on your calendar because I think that might be a game where you start Rocco Rios Novo and give him some time in between the pipes. But I mean, Columbus made mistakes to give Atlanta shots, and they got away with them. And you made mistakes, you haven't gotten away with them. So I mean, I'm fine if people want to elaborate on what they want to see different from what Gonzalo Pineda is doing in training. And look, I mean, and people will be excited because you got Rob Valentino on the bench for the next home game with Gonzalo Pineda suspended. I'll just remind you, man, like Valentino's great at what he does. I still think he's a little green. I think he has a very, very, very bright future.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being under Pineda will only make him better and, get him more ready to take a role, whether it's here or somewhere else, doing, being that guy in charge of things. I want to see how they deal with this coming out of the break because I felt like the last few weeks Pineda's been pretty measured in his response to things, but even post game, like you could just hear the frustration in his voice because it comes down to execution, and it sounds like it's coming down to the execution of we feel like we've got a plan, and then we're not executing it, and sometimes there's only so much you can do in that situation. But if it's like I said, yeah, if you want to elaborate on your issues with Pineda, by all means, go ahead. My ears are open on it.
Susan Laurie's blaming an Orlando curse since we, one, had to wear purple, and two, had an abundance of former Orlando City players on the pitch with a question mark. Susan, one of them scored.
Well, Dom Dwyer's been great. So that's.
I was going to say, we can take Dom Dwyer, put him off to the side. But, so Susan Laurie has an Orlando curse engaged into what's been going on with Atlanta. Michael Head.
Well, I mean, I blame Adidas for this also for making them use purple kits because those kits were not great, and then the white kits were an abomination to God and man because you can't read the numbers on the back and like Adidas, get your shit together. Come on, it shouldn't be that hard.
No, Michael had one win in the last 8 league matches, and this is what I was getting to earlier on in the show. Michael says he's going to try to be careful with his salt. Why does the team continue to have mental breakdowns, especially on corners? This must be the most frustrating team in mankind. Also, he's tired of hearing how the team is better in all aspects of each match, except the most important. Seems like this team only plays to its potential when behind on the scoreboard, also losing to Columbus, a team struggling to score at home is troubling to say the least. By the way, we're now 10th in the East, 10th with multiple exclamation points and question marks. But, Michael, I will say this now. Atlanta's 10th, but you're a win out of 6th. Literally, you are 2 points from a playoff spot. 3 points out of being a win out of being in 6th, and 2 wins in a row hopping up the table where you would be in 5th. And Jarrett, it gets to the point that you were making earlier where because of the playoff format, this isn't like, a lot of other leagues where it's like, okay, you're top and you win. But it's about getting in right now with everything that we've been seeing in the first 13 matches where right now you're at 4-4-5 goal difference and is right there at 20 scored, 20 given up. But right now, 2 points out of a playoff spot, a win out of 6th.
Yeah, I mean, but this is why I felt like you had to win this game. Yeah. And it's a playoff format. You are 2 points out of a playoff spot. So I feel Michael's frustration about the idea that you're in 10th. But you're 2 points out of a playoff spot. The East is so compact and so weird this year. It's going to be fluctuating whether you win or lose. Because now I think you're in the same situation Columbus was in. I think you have the same record. Now it's just goal differential. And I think head to head is going to be an influencer at some point down the line with tiebreaker. I think it's after goal differential. But you don't want too many bodies between yourself and where you need to be. So we run into this all the time with baseball, like with the wild card. You can go back and look at wild card chases where, well, so-and-so is 5 games out of the wild card, and a good week and you're feeling better. Yeah, but you'll have like 6 teams between yourself and there, and then you're asking 6 other teams to do stuff, especially if you're not playing them head to head. You just
Right.
don't want too many bodies between yourself and a playoff spot. You can fix that by beating Miami at home, which you should do.
Yeah.
Miami has been infinitely better. They are, they're 2 wins and 2 draws in their last 4 games. They got 8 points from the last 4 games. It's been really impressive for Miami.
Yep.
All that being said, you gotta, again, you have to go out and win.
Yeah.
You needed to win this game, and now look. Columbus came in here and got it done without Zelarayan and created 2 goals without him, which I didn't think they had in them. Once I saw Zelarayan, was out like, I don't know where these goals are going to come from for Columbus. They got him off a set piece where you're not getting the job done defensively, and then you get beat on a 1v1, right off the second half. Anything you have about the second half, even if they'd given up another goal, it wouldn't matter, because at that point you had 3 defenders on the field and you had 7 attackers. Like, you basically threw a suicide squad on the field in the second half.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and to the points that I guess we can build on the idea of like how defending is going and how people are doing with those moments of focus. For my money, it's a matter of, I think you're missing a lot of leadership on the field, and it shows.
Yeah. JR loves the team, looks at the field, sees 5 amazingly talented guys on offense, see a defense only allowing 1 or 2 goals. Why aren't we winning or at least scoring? All I can look to is the coach. I like Pineda, but what else can we blame?
And that's the thing, is like the mistakes that happen on the field, like the set piece goals. I mean, it's guys not executing on the field. Like, this is one of the reasons I got so mad about this goal.
Yeah.
That you give up in the first minute, because you come out and you turn the ball over after kickoff and you give up a corner kick to a team that is just trying to get ahead and then park the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just don't focus on the subsequent corner kick. They have had games where they've come out, like, think about Nashville in the Open Cup, where they came out with their hair on fire. I don't know what was different about yesterday. Did the players decide not to take Columbus seriously? Like, sometimes, because they came out and they sleptwalked through the first few minutes and they got burned for it. And that's what's interesting, is I don't know what that boils down to. And I don't think it's Pineda in that sense, personally. Yeah. And you might disagree, and totally okay if you disagree. Completely okay, y'all. But it's a matter of, like, you've come out and played well early in games before. I don't know what this, like, did everybody have a big breakfast? Yeah. The hell.
A couple others before we go. John Nason, too much talent on the field not to score multiple goals per game. Just weren't clicking today, and Mr. Room played a blinder. Yes, no doubt. Eloy Room played a blinder. C. Vermeer, Kenneth. But sometimes soon you have to start winning. Yes, not making the playoffs with these results, unfortunately.
Yep.
Luis needs to play wide on the left more.
I would also make a point personally that if you host a playoff game, as much as we've talked about Gonzalo Pineda, if you host a playoff game, Pineda needs to be in the conversation for Coach of the Year.
No doubt.
Because with everything he's lost, if they get to host a playoff game, even if it's like the last hosting spot, it will have been a monumental achievement considering everything they've lost, because you're going to have a lot of bodies in front of you. And you're going to need to get results, and you're going to need to get some road results to do that. And it's going to be tough. This conference is going to beat the dog out of each other, and you're a part of that. And people are gunning at you right now because you are a wounded dog. You are a wounded animal. I've been teaching my child about the way big cats hunt, and that we started like watching National Geographic, and the concept of like, oh well, you see the cheetah is going to hunt the weaker or slower or more sickly animal, or the one that's hurt. And right now you are kind of a limping wildebeest. When you're healthy, everything's good. But you're limping right now, so people are going to be targeting you and trying to get you out of the picture, as they should. Because if everybody did this with Toronto in 2018. Toronto was banged up. Everybody just punished the absolute hell out of Toronto. And everybody's going to try and punish you. You're going to have to take blows, and you're going to have to actually start getting wins, because we can talk about it all we want. And I like the way they're playing. You're creating opportunities. You've been creating multiple goals a game. You got to stop letting them in. And I think some of that does come down to leadership. Somebody's got to grab this by the scruff of their neck. I thought Mateus Sassetu has been doing a good job of that with the armband. But you got to start getting results. Like, all of it's good and all, and they know they got to get results. Like, that's not some mythical thing. They know it. We all know it.
Two more before we go. One by Matt Haney. Teams, especially in MLS, can only withstand so many injuries. This team feels a lot better with Pineda than it did with Heinze or even with DeBoer. Like the aggression to sub in attackers, just don't have the chemistry. Possession without goals means nothing, but the attack is growing. All of that, Matt, is true. Last one.
Yeah, you're throwing so many attacking bodies on the field. You've completely, like, at that point you were playing like a 3-7. Like, you were just throwing bodies on. There wasn't by the end of that game, there wasn't structure. There was get everyone forward and see what the hell happens.
Yep. Last one on the board comes from Jake Michaels for the show this week. Miami got the MLS version of the death penalty, and they're doing better than us. Injuries aren't the reason for the 2 goals we gave up. We talked about that. We're bad, and we've been that way for a few seasons now. The stadium is less full. Fans are losing interest. When will it change?
When they win.
Yeah, I mean,
honestly, like, fans are fair weather, man. I mean, it's like the second half of last year, you were once you've hired Gonzalo Pineda, you were one of the best teams in the league points wise. You were getting stuff done, and you were getting good performances. But I don't know what it takes. Yeah. I don't know what it's going to take this year to get things turned around all the way. I honestly don't, man. Everybody's anxious about it. I think that's a big part of it, is because you felt like you've got a coach that's not that you feel good about. You brought in new attackers. You were thinking Joseph's going to be ready. He wasn't. And then you start just getting crippled by injuries. And see, I'll disagree with the second goal being up to injuries, because I think in the second goal, where it's Alex Jon getting muscled off the ball by Hurtado, I think that's Miles in that situation. He's not losing that 1v1. Right. That's your third string center back doing the job that arguably the best center back in the United States would usually be handling. The first one, absolutely not an injury thing. That's just once again. That is execution and a just abysmal set piece defense. I completely agree on that one. The second one, I think it's your third string center back where it should have been your first string center back.
But Jake, to your point about saying that Atlanta United is bad and we've been that way for a few seasons now, once again, I would look when Gonzalo Pineda was hired and when Rob Valentino took over for Gabriel Heinze. You get the run with Rob, you bring in Pineda, and Gonzalo Pineda was top 3 in points per game average from the time he was hired through the end of the regular season for Atlanta United. That, to me, is not a team that is bad. This season, once again, specifically, you're looking at a team that has been decimated. Your spine has been decimated by injuries, and you're having to work as best you can and try to come up with game plans and try to manufacture chemistry with folks who aren't used to playing with each other in these matches. Once again, we mentioned the injuries at the beginning. You had Luis Araujo scores a goal, then he has a hamstring problem. You don't have Joseph. You're trying to manufacture stuff up top. That's why you bring in Cisneros to be a part of the equation. You bring in Dom Dwyer to be a part of the equation. You're seeing those results from the two of them. You lose Ozzy Alonso. You haven't had Santi Sosa at 100% full song because of injuries there. But you have been able to find a combination with Franco Ibarra and Mateus Usechu that has worked out well. You would not have known that if everyone else were healthy. You don't have Miles. You don't have Brad. You've lost Andrew Gutman. You're probably going to lose Ronald Hernandez for a little bit, considering that this is happening over an international window. And having to basically take all of these different pieces and figure out what to do with a lineup on a match-by-match basis when you don't have all of these moving parts. I want to say that you've only had the same lineup, the same starting 11, I want to say twice this season because of
you did it 2 or 3 times in a row, which was wonderful.
Yeah, and that's you haven't had any kind of consistency in a row, and having to put a team out there that that has been doing as well as they have without the consistency, I think speaks to what Gonzalo Pineda and the staff and the front office, frankly, in bringing in the depth that they have to do this. Because I mean, there have been a lot of teams, and Jake, you can pick your favorite team. Could be college or pro or what have you. Think about your other teams that are your favorite teams. When you have injuries like this, there have been times in the past in your other favorite sports where teams have just basically just completely lost it, and they finish last, and it's a season that's washed, and you just sit there and you're like, yeah, we're done, and you're just chasing after that first round draft pick. You just sit there and you write the season off. Atlanta United has not done that. No, they're not getting full results. They're not getting full points. They're not getting wins when they should. And we talked about the defensive issues and the lapses and things like that. But just in general, if you were to take the injury issue and put it right there as a part of this full equation, I think it's safe to say that with what has been built, with the depth that has been brought in, this is not anything resembling a lost season under any circumstance because of the fight that the front office has to bring in players, to continue to have the fight that the players have on a match-by-match basis. Yes, they do have to address the lack of focus on set pieces and defending and all those kinds of things, yes. But it has not been a situation where they have given up the season only 13 or 14 matches in. That has not been the case at all. And just taking everything from its context, I think, is important here in addressing what's going on for the final 24-ish matches of the season. So that's just how I'm looking at things, Jake. And like we always say here, we can have these discussions and we can talk it out, and that's what we're here for. It is about context, it's about depth, and not just reducing things to sound bites and things like that. So, Jake, you can reach out to me at OSG Nelson at any time, and we can talk it out, and we can have any kind of discussion that you want. Anything else on your mind before we go?
I mean, like I said, I think a lot of it comes down to it comes down to leadership. Like, I want to know it's great that Matesa Setu has taken the armband and run with it. I've mentioned before, it's the old Celtic saying of like, the jersey doesn't shrink to fit lesser men. The armband shouldn't either. And I think Hazetsu has taken it and done really well. His mistake in Nashville notwithstanding, which was right after a rain delay, and then Joe Willis makes a mistake. That game was just really drunk and stupid.
Yes.
And it's great he's been able to do that, but you don't have an Ozzy Alonso or a Jeff Lorenowitz to grab it all by or Brad Guzan to grab it by the scruff of the neck and to grab that team and snap them into focus. Because to me, I think that's one of the things that's lacking, is having that veteran leader who can do that and keep everybody locked in. Problem being, the guys who would do that are all hurt. And I don't know how you address that. I don't know who needs to be. Joseph could be that guy when he's on the field. He certainly has been that guy in the past. He's not a guy necessarily who always wears the armband, but he can snap people into gear and he can keep them locked in. He will hold them accountable. And I think sometimes it's you've got a lot of young players and it's hard to find that guy to do it. And just because someone's a veteran doesn't mean they're going to be that leader. Some people kind of lead from the back. They aren't that loud vocal leader. You look at a guy like Alex DeJohn. Alex DeJohn has a really defined role in this system. I don't think Alex DeJohn is, a guy who's going to grab it all by the scruff and tell everybody, we need to do A, B, and C. That might not be his personality. You had guys who fit that personality, and they're not playing. They're hurt, and I don't know how you address this in the window because you've got a window coming up.
Yeah.
How are you going to address that? Because you cleared Jake Mulroney out. You have a senior spot open. You're going to have a bit of money. What do you go get?
Yep.
Who do you go get? How do they fit now? How do they fit in the future? Because before he blew his Achilles out, I kind of had Miles Robinson pegged as on the way out the door because I figured he was going to be looking for that trip to Europe. I still get sick thinking about that, man, because he was set to play the year in MLS, then go to the World Cup, play in the World Cup, and then cash in on it. And I cannot get over how much I hate it for Miles Robinson that's not going to be the path for him, because his storybook ending should have been play the season, make the playoffs, see what the hell happens, go to the World Cup, play in the World Cup, get the eyes of the entire damn world on him and make a move somewhere where he gets to go to Europe and see what he can do if he wants to. And that not happening now is still just some massive cosmic bullshit.
Yes.
I don't know what they will do in the window. I don't know if it's like an inner MLS move. If you want to try and find someone who can be that guy, if you think Joseph is that guy, great. I will be very curious to see what they do on the defensive side of things, because I think honestly, if they're healthy, they're going to be confident putting George Campbell out there more and asking him to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And either way, I want him out there. And if you think the season is lost, then I'm not going to. I'll disagree with you, but I'm not going to tell you you're out. Like I'm not going to tell you you're wrong and you don't get an opinion on that. I'll disagree with you, and we'll see how it goes from there, man. But even if it is lost, even if you think it's lost, then I see no reason why it shouldn't be Caleb Wiley and George Campbell out there logging minutes and getting better and better, because both of them have absurd ceilings.
Yep. And in fact, they do. And that
we'll
is,
see.
Yep. And that is,
it all sucks.
Yes.
It all sucks right now.
None of us like where things are currently. And so that's another round of salty takeaways and bitter ends after the 2-1 loss to Columbus. 8th time that Atlanta United has scored a goal in the 80th minute or later, coming up a goal short. And hopefully we have brought everything to the table that was on everyone's mind. And as always, you can always reach out to us on social media, and we can have any kind of conversation that you want to have outside of SDH, outside of salty takeaways, anytime you want. We can always have these kinds of conversations.
Yeah, and if you're on the Discord and you ever want to open the voice chat, man, just drop a line. I'm happy to jump in the Discord and voice chat it out if y'all want to do that too.
Yeah.
I try and do it after Tuesdays games, and actually we did it the other night, and it turned into an hour-long discussion about baseball, and college baseball specifically. But happy to talk that. Happy to talk anything, especially in the Discord. And if not on the Discord, be up. DMs are always open. We can yell about stuff together. I'm cool with that. We don't have to agree. I promise.
No doubt.
It's okay.
It is.
Zero hard feelings about it, because you want to treat it like a therapy session where you put a block down at the front of it and the end of it, and you separate it out from personal feelings. Totally cool with that.
Yep, absolutely. Every single time. So he's Jarrett. I'm Jon, and we will have SDH this week. And obviously, content might be a little lighter because you're talking international windows and things like that. But
content lighter my ass. I got Scotland and Ukraine Wednesday.
That's true. And we'll get into that. So we'll get into Nations League and all that fun stuff that is coming up just around the corner. So he's Jarrett. I'm Jon. Once again, thanks for hanging out with us for another round of Salty. Play safe, everybody. We'll see you next time.